I want to talk about the Farouki case, the Anham, and just how it's a much bigger deal than this sidebar case where I was really literally the only reporter in the trial today. And I'll tell you the long progression of connection to Hezbollah that these people have, this connection to Beirut University, American University in Beirut. And it was this guy who was supposedly shipping food, and he was going to save money for the American Army, U.S. Army, by taking it through Iraq. Well, what they don't tell you is he used to be an arms dealer. He used to be very closely allied with the person who was going to be the person who was going to unseat Saddam Hussein. He was the person who supplied the weapons to the new security formation, the new Iraq National Congress, the new Iraq security forces. He was very involved with this bank called Petra Bank, PRA Bank. This is the bank that's been involved with terrorist financing in Iran of the nuclear material. And he's involved with this Petra Bank, this guy named Chalabi. This Chalabi is kind of a neocon darling. The Wolfowitz put him in there. Cheney puts him in there. Project for a New American Century. And he's a close associate, this Chalabi, through Petra Bank, of this guy named Farouki. So these are two peas in a pod going all the way back to a $300 million money laundering scheme. And it was just very funny to hear the lawyer say after all this is a $12 billion fraud now. Back in the old days, those are $300 million frauds here, $300 million there. Pretty soon that adds up. This is $12 billion. And we're talking about things that happened at the time of shipping centrifuges to Iraq, as well as to weapons to Iraq. And Iran, especially. One could very easily say, hey, you supplied all the security forces in Iran with their weapons through a set of artifices like Petra Bank. Again, it's a Shiite allegiances like the Awans. What would stop you from doing the same thing for the Quds Force? What would stop you from being the person, if you were shipping all this stuff to the U.S. Army with all these weapons and food, what would stop Peter Strzok from shipping all these AK-47s and all these weapons and so forth? And you stockpile it, and then you can move it around as you see fit, as you do your different micro wars in Africa and the Middle East. So he starts going through them. American University in Baghdad, American University in Beirut, American University here in Washington, D.C., the Aspen Institute. He has a big house in Aspen. He also has a $5.8 million condo in New York. So this guy is big money. The lawyer wanted him to be able to fly to the UAE today. And as I'd said from the beginning with the shipment of these centrifuges, again, all this happens around the time that Bob Otto goes there. Basically, I think what happens is they create a second Piketon. I don't know where yet. I'm going to say it's Isfahan, but it could be Mashhad. And Bob Otto, through Anya Blonsky and Bob Levison, are creating a mirrored site for centrifuges. And then is how many Awan Contras have there been since Iran Contra? These are all the original Awan Contra guys. It's just like they're getting recycled like character actors in a Humphrey Bogart movie. And it's quite funny because there's no one in the courtroom that knows any of this history. So everyone's either a friend or an attorney of the defense. There was literally no one in the courtroom that was covering this. Now, it's funny because the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal have all covered Farouki in the past when he was with a company called Nour, which is N-O-U-R, and when he was supplying weapons to the Iraqi security forces. But remember, at the same time in 2003, 2004, when the Iraqis are receiving a whole bunch of farm equipment from Peter Strzok, right? This is Peter Strzok Sr. being shipped with humanitarian aid, supposedly tractors, and they're flying in 300,000 young men to work the fields with their AK-47s up in the hills. Kind of funny. Doesn't seem like you would want to, you know, be farming up in these mountains where you could hide out as a Quds force. Anyway, it just seemed like all this Iran stuff with shipping of weapons and Peter Strzok all came together with Farouki. I mean, this guy has been attached to the Shiite movement, Hezbollah banks going all the way back, even before, all the way back to Iran-Contra in 1984. So